This is a Fox News alert. Time is running out for two hostages held by ISIS. And now, Jordan offering to do a very controversial prisoner swap with the terrorists to save their Jordanian Air Force pilot. Jordan is offering to release a convicted terrorist, a woman who killed nearly 60 people in coordinated bombings on hotels in Jordan in 2005. At this hour, there is no word on the fate of the Jordanian pilot, nor is there any word about the fate of the Japanese journalist, also being held by ISIS and also facing the threat of beheading. If the female terrorist is not released within 24 hours, so will the terrorist swap happen? And if so, will it set a dangerous precedent? Congressman and U.S. Air Force veteran Adam Kinzinger joins us. Good evening, sir.
Hey, good evening. Thanks.
Very controversial offering to swap. Your thought?
Well, look, you have to have sympathy for the Jordanian people. They've, watched for a month their pilot on television, paraded around, this hero. So you understand that. This sets a very bad precedent. You look at the fact that why does ISIS want this to happen in the first place? Do they really want this so-called, Lady Al-Qaeda out? Maybe. But at the end of the day, they want a victory. And that will be a huge victory for them if they're able to get Jordan to, in essence, show up on their knees, release a prisoner who's been convicted through a legal court system in order to get their pilot back. It's as much of a moral victory for ISIS as anything. And
there she is, by the way. That's the killer. That's one of the killers. Killed 56, 60 people. Vicious woman. She
forgot like a critical part of her suicide belt, but she intended to blow herself up in this crowded market as well too. So yeah, this sets a really bad precedent. The problem is, it was a precedent that we set also. I think with the Bergdahl swap, that we were willing to negotiate with terror, and so it puts us in a bad position.
And of course, we'll talk about later. But President Obama, at least the White House, won't call the Taliban, who makes it a career to blow up people in markets and set IEDs, as terrorists. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, well, that's shocking. But, this is, again, what we've seen is the need to destroy ISIS, because every day that goes by, and I think this is going to be a multi-year process, especially with, the president saying we'll never use ground troops in this case. You're going to see these hostage situations and these desires for swaps and these, $100 or $200 million ransom and more beheadings. We're going to see this forever. This is their MO, and they want this as a moral victory.
And of course, my heart bleeds for the families and also for the people of Jordan who are struggling with this. But this makes it extremely unsafe for Americans traveling, because it sets a precedent. But are you convinced that the Jordanian pilot is even alive? Because Catherine Herod does lots of reports on our network, and I've talked to her, and she oftentimes thinks that the beheadings are done, and then they go out and they polish up their video and they do their editing, and that they can be dead for weeks before we see the video.
It's possible. We obviously hope not, but I've heard that theory on the two Japanese prisoners as well too. And think about the moral victory if this, unfortunately, maybe if this pilot has been already murdered. We hope he hasn't been, and then Jordan offers to make a swap and then find out that he was murdered anyway. Again, the thing ISIS is seeking here is a major moral victory, and a moral victory to them will help them recruit. They will have brought down this infidel regime in Jordan, and it's a very dangerous situation. It's going to lead to further kidnappings and further danger. That's why we don't negotiate with terror. That's why we can't do it.
I wish our nation, our president, would show I hate to use the word leadership because it's so insulting, but this might be a time to bring Japan in into fighting ISIS, and if he'd gone to Paris and he'd been there with Angela Merkel and other world leaders. This is really a world problem, and because ISIS is doing it left, right, and center.
It appears that he's trying to manage the problem of ISIS. I really believe he's trying to just manage this until he's out of office and allow the next president to probably finally defeat ISIS. And it really appears that we're in a unilateral withdrawal right now from the world. He's desperate for Afghanistan to be over in his tenure. He was desperate to leave Iraq and not sign a status of forces agreement, only put like 5,000 troops on the table, and they needed significantly more than that. It's a very dangerous and sad thing. And the problem is the next president's going to come in, whether it's Democrat or Republican, and have a huge job to do. And it's going to
look. You can't stop these killers, and they're evil. But the thought is that if we moved a little bit faster, maybe we could get to a victory a little bit sooner. And we wouldn't be talking about all these beheadings.
Well, that's right.
And the cancer grows. The more that we sort of slow walk this.
And the more success they have, you're seeing these different jihadist groups now, in essence, joining the ISIS umbrella. What used to be a very fractured movement. Al Qaeda competed with ISIS, Boko Haram competed. They all wanted to kind of have this title. they're now coming under this big umbrella, and it's because ISIS has shown so much success.
And you mentioned Boko Haram. Last spring, 270 girls were kidnapped from a school. They've now been raped and sold to men and everything else. And the world, for a while, the world sent out hashtags, and everyone was concerned, you know, bring our girls home. And now it's like, you know, it's like, what girls? I mean, the world has looked the other way and moved on.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Congressman, nice to see you, sir.
Thank you. Great being here.
And the